how we doing? This feels really weird. I've done some videos in my life, but talking to myself is always a little funny. But welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. This is the first ever Red Top YouTube video. There should be many more where this comes from. We all got full-time jobs, but for some reason we all just want to hold a camera this year, want to get some of our hunts on film. So I thought I'd start with a little practice run. And this video is going to be about basically my entire journey this summer and spring through trying to shoot a high FOC or a heavy arrow setup, a more forward to center weight mass on my arrow. If you're not familiar with the Ranch Fairy, go check out his videos. He is an absolute madman. He's the mad scientist behind high FOC. Yeah, so that's kind of where I got started on some of the deer that I've shot. I've witnessed people shooting deer with, I'll just call it what the Ranch Fairy calls it, a Twizzler arrow. I'll just use an arrow here as an example. If you're shooting a light arrow, it's going to fly through the air, and as soon as it hits the animal, it's going to have this, you know, wrenching, and you're not getting the pull through the animal that you want, creating a very lethal arrow that will pass through the animal 9 times out of 10. Or if I hit a shoulder blade, hit some kind of bone, I'm more likely to break through that and get through into the vitals than wounding that animal. We're all not perfect bow hunters. I've practiced more this year than I ever have in my life because of this this journey. So all in all that said, it's been a roller coaster ride. So let's just jump right into kind of where I started and where I am now. And I'm not finished, which is crazy, but
basically these are my arrows from last year. This is a 340 spine gold tip with regular gold tip, kind of like laser veins, but they're gold tip models. This is a 340 spine, so 8.2 grains per inch with an aluminum insert, which I believe is somewhere in the 10 to 12 grain range. Shooting a 100 grain tip on here, so if I had to...
Yes, I didn't do all of my research ahead of this video, so sorry for that. I would probably say it's about 470 grains of the entire arrow. 470 grains total for this arrow. Yeah, and that's pretty basic. That's what most guys are shooting. Today I am shooting a 300 spine Easton Matrix, and I have a 75 grain insert in here with a 200 grain head, and this arrow here is about 545 grains of weight total, which is actually not super heavy. I'd actually like to be heavier, but this is kind of where I ended up, and I've gone through the process of sighting in and doing all that fun stuff, thinking that I was actually heavier, but I'm not that heavy. But I do have 275 grains at the front of this arrow, which makes it forward to center weight pretty front heavy. Let's talk about my actual setup. Right now I'm shooting as my Hoyt RX1. Bought it off of a guy. I shot an old bear for many years and made an upgrade, and with that upgrade I began the high FOC arrows. I actually, about a month ago, I went down from 70 pounds down to 60 pounds. To be comfortable behind your bow, I want to be comfortable behind my bow, so I went down to 60 pounds, and since then I've been shooting great. So I'm really happy with my groups and all that good stuff. This is the beginning of my quiver. I am actually wrapping and fletching all my own arrows. I went out and bought the Bitzenberger. I'll show you what this looks like. So we've got the 200 grain Woodsman. I'm shooting the Woodsman 200 grain. At the end of this video, I'm actually going to shoot these and see how they're flying. Here's my 4-fletch Batwing. So I actually put a white wrap on there, and then with my Bitzenberger, I, you know, got these cool looking fletchings on there. So here's been my struggle. Let's get into that. The struggle was the more weight you're putting on the front, the more poundage that your bow has, the stiffer you're going to want your arrow. So I'm getting away with a 300 spine arrow because I want to shoot the lightest arrow possible with the heaviest weight up front that my bow will allow me, if that makes sense. Because I want feather light back here and heavy up here, so when this hits, my point is pulling the arrow through the animal and not hitting and wrenching around, because that's why you don't get pass-throughs. So the struggle is real with this. It took me all summer to figure out what weight was going to fly best with my 300 spine arrow. You probably shouldn't do it that way. And if your bow is over 65 pounds of draw weight and you want your arrow to be over 550 grains, go with a 250 spine, or at least start there. You're going to need that stiffness. I did this ass backwards. Kind of bought my arrows up front, the 300 spine, and kind of found a weight that flew best with this arrow. So let me give you the most important bit of advice when you're going to get into this, or if you decide that you want to go with the higher FOC. You're going to spend money, you're going to make mistakes, and it's going to be frustrating. No doubt. Look at this. This is only a few of the arrows that I've bought. I've got all types of stuff, different fletching. Look at this thing. Tons of fletching on that one. This is all just trial and error right here. These are my hunting arrows. After I shoot them today, I'm basically going to sharpen them, and they are going to stay in this quiver until I'm in the stand hunting deer. They're not going to get shot at groundhogs. They're not going to get shot at anything else but whitetails, because they're expensive. These are probably $30 a piece, these broadheads. Just a lot of work goes into them. So the quiver stays as my hunting setup. And across most YouTube platforms, the guys that are doing this, they're all pretty much shooting 4 fletch. Not all of them, but a good amount of them are leaning towards the 4 fletch. Basically, one of the biggest problems I have, this is the Evo 6-day, 200 grains. So when you put this baby on the front, take a look at it. It's badass, right? Badass broadhead. But when this thing's flying through the air, it's overtaking the fletchings. It's overtaking this fletching. It's literally, I might get 1 out of every 5 shots is a good shot, and the fletchings are not driving the arrow, but the broadhead is, and they're coming in and planing off. So that was my biggest problem, is when I actually got to what I want my weight to be and what my bow is shooting well with my field tips, I bought the 200 grain broadheads. Well, come to find out, they did not fly very well. So basically, when you get into these broadheads, really think about like how wide they are, because there's no vents or anything in these, so they're gonna take over. So if you want to shoot something like this, you're gonna need something more like these. So this was like one of the first arrows I fletched. If you look really close, it's pretty crappy. But I don't like all of this, so I kind of toned it down with the bat wings. Basically, the recap on this journey is that it wasn't as easy as I thought. I thought about quitting multiple times and going back to the old 300 spine arrow, 100 grain broadhead, and you know, yeah, my bow shoots that fine. I mean, I could definitely pattern that, no problem. But in the end, I knew that I had to figure this out, because I just wanted to be more ethical. I wanted to have a better chance of, if I made a bad shot or something happened, that I have that little bit of protection behind my arrow. I have a lethal arrow. Thanks for watching.